The mountains of North Wales, striking and magnificent. This land is steeped in history, from romantic medieval princes to the struggles of quarrymen and miners as they extracted slate and metal ores from its depths. Wales is also famous for its sheep, thousands of them, and Welsh wool is now prized as a warm and hard-wearing cloth. But there's another side to this story, for over 200 years ago, Welsh wool was closely connected to slavery. And now a group of community volunteers have come together to find out more about this difficult story. The history of the Welsh woolen industry has been explored for years, and through this, we now know how vital it was to the economy of Wales. At one point, it was the country's biggest export. Recent research, however, carried out by academics and historians, has shocked many as it identified that one of the principal markets for the Welsh cloth from the 17th century to the 19th was the slave trade. Britain was involved in slavery for some 300 years, and it all revolved around the triangular trade. Slave raiders captured men, women and children, marching them to the shores of West Africa, where they were exchanged for European raw materials and manufactured goods. The African slave traders wanted things such as guns, copper, cowrie shells, and many types of fabric. And one of these was a rough woolen cloth from North Wales called Welsh Plains. The captives were then forced to board sailing ships and were taken across the Atlantic to a harsh and short life of enslavement in the Americas. During the time of slavery, around 12 million Africans were ripped from their homes and enslaved in the New World. After arriving in the Americas, the enslaved would be sold to the highest bidder at auction before being forced to work on plantations, most of them in the Caribbean producing sugar or producing cotton in North America. By law, slave owners were forced to clothe their workers. Most of them wore a hard-wearing linen called osnaburg, which was made in several places across Europe. But another fabric that was brought over from Britain in huge quantities for clothing the enslaved was Welsh Plains. The history of Welsh cloth production goes back centuries and involved all parts of the country at different periods. By the time of slavery, the dominant wool-producing areas stretched across mid and North Wales through the old counties of Meirionnydd, Montgomery and Denbigh. The production of woolen cloth involves many different processes and skills. First, the shearing, then sorting, followed by carding to remove thorns and barbs and to smooth out the fibers. Skilled spinners produce the yarn from the carded wool. Weavers set up their looms with the yarn ready to begin the arduous task of weaving the cloth. Much of Welsh Plains was woven in simple cottages or in farmhouses, which were dotted around the hillsides. After weaving, the cloth was taken to the fulling mill for cleaning, a process that involved fuller's earth, soapwort, and urine, which helped bleach the cloth. After all that, the woven cloth was taken by long trains of pack horses eastwards across Wales to be sold to traders in the border markets, with the centre of trade being Shrewsbury. From about 1750, merchants from Liverpool traded directly with the Welsh weavers, ensuring that Welsh Plains made its way straight to the docks for export to Africa and the Americas. While we knew this history, what was missing from our knowledge was how this trade impacted on local communities in Wales then and now. That is what the Sheep to Sugar project set out to discover. The group wanted to make sure they engaged with as many people as possible and in many of the places that were directly connected to this story. To launch the project, the team met in Shrewsbury, once the stronghold of cloth trading through the all-powerful Drapers Guild. In fact, they held their first meeting in the former guild's prestigious hall, now a boutique hotel and restaurant.
This is the Drapers' Hall. We have to remember, and we're here because that's a starting point to our story. We know quite a lot, thanks to the good records of the Drapers Guild. We know quite a lot about this history, and so it seemed a suitable place.
This has been a wool trading area because we are in an area called the Marches, the Welsh borderlands, and the wool here is brilliant. It grows really well and the sheep grow well. The hall itself was as a result of the trading of wool. The Drapers were the original wool traders in about the 12th century. They emerged as part of the merchant guild of the town, and then a little bit later emerged into form a separate guild. So the merchant guild looked after all the trades, and then eventually the Crown realised they could get more income if they set up the guilds.
I'm Chris Evans. I work at the University of South Wales, and here I am outside the Sailors Institute in Barmouth. Why Barmouth? Well, because Barmouth is a port through which Welsh planes were exported out into the wider Atlantic world. So it's really important if you're looking at the history of Welsh wars.
We've come across this absolutely fantastic handwritten record of shipbuilding from 1754 through to the 1800s, and we'll just go ahead to one of the pages, which is about the exports, showing the quantities of webs exported from 1789 through to 1794, and the peak was 276,612 yards. And then suddenly, now tell us why did it suddenly decline in
1793, January 1793, war breaks out between Britain and France. So that absolutely devastates international trade. So yeah, off a cliff, isn't it?
Yeah. Isn't it fascinating? Gosh, but it explains clearly that the webs were made of coarse woolen cloth and cotton, it says, which is interesting.
That's a mistake.
Yeah, I think so. It was the cottoning was the process that fluffed the surface.
While some Welsh wool was exported from Barmouth, one of the main locations for its manufacture was Dolgellau. The group are finding out about the town's former fulling mills, now little more than ruins. Now they're exploring the built heritage of the slave trade in the town itself, its old weaving lofts and mills.
Farmers would bring the wool up in large sacks.
Yeah.
It would then be pulled up on pulleys, probably through there, and then the process would begin. And then the cloths would then be brought down as well.
Jill from South Wales has actually, from Ryland fleece, gone through all the processes to produce what could be Welsh plains, and she went through this fulling process. So in the photographs it shows the woven fabric being much lighter and the fulling process really thickening it up. It's got the features that we've read about. It's got the texture that we think that Welsh plains might have. So this is really something quite special. We've certainly got a lot of information, and we've talked to so many people, as you've said. Our community research volunteers are constantly coming up with new gems of information, like look out for soapwork, that'll show you where fulling mills are. That was an early piece of information we got. So we're going to put information onto the website, and that certainly will tell the story, and we've worked out all the sections. We've got a blog so that community research volunteers can contribute information to the blog. We're going to put information onto the People's Collection, and we're going to translate the main parts of the story, but then also provide the additional information, whether it came in Welsh or whether it came in English. We have so much information, we can't possibly translate it all. So that's what we're hoping to do.
The Sheep to Sugar project has ensured that more people than ever have found out about the connections between Welsh wool and slavery. And through their work, they are encouraging others to find out more about this painful but fascinating story.